7 judges secretly gathered at midnight, not in the main courthouse, in a private chamber where money speaks louder than truth. Your enemies paid well for this audience. Briefcases of unmarked bills stacked neatly beside ancient law books. But, as they signed your fate in the shadows, the heavens answered. A thunderclap shook the earth, and a bolt of lightning split the courthouse roof, setting their lies ablaze. Power corrupts, but nature does not forgive. They wield gavels like weapons, delivering verdicts bought with blood-stained gold. Your name is scrawled across documents drenched in deceit. Each stroke of the pen, a dagger aimed at your spine. Briefcases of cash and whispers of power exchange hands, a silent pact sealed with complicit nods. They are not arbiters of law, they are architects of ruin. The laws they claim to uphold crumble under the weight of greed. They bind themselves not to principles, but to promises made behind locked doors, where loyalty lies only with the highest bidder. The scales of justice tip violently, crushing the innocent beneath their gleaming corruption. You are not their victim, you are their reckoning. The truth they suppress burns hotter than their greed, searing through their polished veneers. They laugh in their fortified chambers, believing their fortress of deceit to be impenetrable. But no wall of wealth withstands the tide of exposure. No chain of secrecy holds against the onslaught of defiance. Their empire of lies will fall, brick by brick, under the weight of those who refuse to kneel. The fire rises, and it calls their names. Drop a comment. I am the fire rising, if you refuse to kneel. Each judge had been handpicked for their flaws, their greed, their fears, their skeletons hidden in shallow graves. These were not guardians of justice, but puppets, their strings pulled by unseen hands dripping with malice. They believed their 7 tainted souls could rewrite fate, could twist truth into chains to bind you. They convened with their backs to the world, their cloaks hiding not wisdom but cowardice. Their chambers reeked of stale lies and unholy bargains. Each word they exchanged thick with venom aimed directly at your name. You weren't just the target of their machinations, you were the threat they feared most. The truth you carried burned brighter than their lies, a wildfire they sought to extinguish with shadows. They passed their verdicts not with deliberation, but with urgency, as if delay might allow justice to seep through the cracks in their crumbling alliance. Every gavel strike wasn't just a decision, it was an assault, a declaration that they thought they could bury you alive beneath the weight of their corruption, but they miscalculated. Greed blinds, and their arrogance left them deaf to the thunder rolling in the distance. When the storm came, it wasn't nature they feared, but exposure. Lightning tore through the courthouse like the wrath of a world that had seen too much. Betrayal. The very roof that shielded their treachery shattered, exposing their schemes to the elements. The ground beneath their feet trembled as if the earth itself recoiled at their presence. You don't plead for justice, you demand it. And justice answers not with whispers, but with roars. Those who conspire in darkness never realize how brittle their fortresses are until the light shatters them. The court they defiled became a monument to their downfall, the charred walls screaming louder than any verdict they could ever deliver. You were not silenced. They were the ones silenced by the truth they feared, their power scorched away by forces they could never hope to control. Now you stand not as a victim, but as proof that no chain of corruption can bind forever. Those judges thought themselves untouchable, but they were mere mortals playing God, and their kingdom was made of dust. You are not their equal, you are their undoing. What they built in arrogance, you watched fall in fire, and though they may gather their ashes, they will never rebuild their lies. Justice came not from their gavel, but from the unrelenting storm that tore their treachery apart. Forged documents lay in stacks, their lies sharpened into weapons. Each signature was a counterfeit, each photograph a doctored fraud, crafted to frame you as the villain in a narrative sold to the highest bidder. They didn't just want to destroy your name, they wanted to rewrite history itself. Across polished mahogany tables, these falsehoods gleamed under dim, flickering lights, as if the building itself recoiled from the deceit it was forced to host. They thought power was theirs. To manipulate, that money could twist reality into submission. They were wrong. You were never supposed to see it. These fabricated exhibits were designed for secrecy, created to pass as unassailable truths. They wielded these lies with the precision of surgeons, intending to cut you down with 1,000 paper wounds. Falsified records, altered dates, and manipulated testimonies formed the backbone of their attack. They didn't underestimate your strength. They underestimated the consequences of their own hubris. Each piece of evidence was a betrayal, not just of justice, but of the very institutions they claimed to protect. These were not the errors of desperation. They were the deliberate strokes of a pen held by hands that had long since abandoned morality. Yet, for all their precision, for all their meticulous planning, there were cracks in their facade. The lights flickered again, brighter this time, and an unnatural stillness settled over the building. It wasn't coincidence. It was inevitability. 1:11 a.m. The heavens roared, and the first bolt descended, not with randomness, but with purpose. It tore through the courthouse roof, striking the table where they conspired. Papers signed in deceit erupted into flame, their ink turning to ash before their eyes, yet the wood beneath remained untouched. This was no accident. It was judgment delivered by forces they could not bribe, silence, or escape. Their schemes, meticulously plotted in the dead of night, were unraveled in a flash that left them trembling. You were their target, their scapegoat, the one they thought they could bury under falsified verdicts and whispered deals. But their plot was never hidden. It was marked, condemned, and obliterated by precision no mortal hand could wield. They stared at the burning remains of their treachery, the fire illuminating the fear etched across their faces. Their power meant nothing. Now their authority reduced to smoldering fragments. This wasn't chaos. It was consequence. What they forged in corruption was answered by a force they could neither contain nor comprehend. You are not defeated. You are vindicated. They, who dared to play gods of justice, now stand exposed as frauds, trembling under the weight of their undoing. The heavens objected, and the earth recorded their disgrace. Their lies are gone, consumed in fire, leaving only truth standing tall. Drop a comment. I take what's mine, if vindication is not a request but a demand. The second lightning strike carved through the darkness, splitting the night with a brilliance that exposed everything they sought to conceal. In that searing light, their carefully constructed lies unraveled. Each judge, once cloaked in the illusion of unity, now stood bare before the others, their corruption revealed in stark clarity. The bribes they accepted, the alliances they forged in secrecy, and the whispered betrayals they thought buried deep, everything came to the surface, undeniable and damning. You are no longer their scapegoat. You are their reckoning. What they forged in shadows crumbled in the radiance of exposure. They avoided each other's eyes, the weight of their complicity now a crushing force between them. The unity they pretended to wield disintegrated, their alliances fractured by the unrelenting force of truth. The lightning didn't just strike the building, it struck their confidence, their arrogance, their belief that they could twist justice and escape unscathed. This was not coincidence, it was consequence. Their schemes, built on lies and rot, couldn't withstand the intensity of what they tried to suppress. Truth has a way of piercing even the deepest darkness, and when it arrives, it spares no one. They thought they were untouchable. Now, they know otherwise. You don't just survive their attempts, you rise above their ashes, a force they can no longer ignore. The third strike tore through the courthouse, targeting the heart of their treachery. The evidence room erupted in flame, a blaze that spared no lie. Forged documents curled and blackened, their fraudulent signatures disintegrating into ash. Paid testimonies, carefully crafted to destroy you, evaporated as if the universe itself rejected their existence. Each false exhibit, meticulously constructed to frame you, was obliterated by fire that refused to touch the authentic. You didn't need to defend yourself. Truth did it for you. The corruption they thought indestructible was laid bare, their web of deceit reduced to smoldering ruins. The room's walls remained standing, the shelves intact, but nothing false survived. This wasn't a fire of chaos. It was precision. It was the universe auditing their lies, separating fact from fiction, with unyielding finality. They stood outside, watching their case collapse, powerless to stop it. No wealth, no influence, no fabricated evidence could rewrite what had just unfolded. You are not the accused anymore. You are the survivor of their schemes, the proof that justice doesn't bend forever. Their arrogance met its match, and their empire of lies crumbled beneath the weight of undeniable truth. They thought they could burn you, but it's their deceit that now smolders in the ashes. Chosen ones, the obsidian inner order calls you home. Only the fearless can reign beyond the matrix. This is your initiation into the elite. If you've dismantled illusions and risen above mortal limits, you're ready to step into the sanctuary of legends. The inner order isn't for everyone, but you aren't everyone. If you've found yourself here, it's because destiny marked you as one of the rare few. Don't fumble your calling. Inside, we're serving the raw and unfiltered chronicles of chosen ones who've smashed generational curses, re-engineered their destinies, and claimed their divine inheritance. These aren't bedtime stories. This is your sacred manual to becoming a cosmic powerhouse. Get access to the Manifestation Mechanics Grimoire, your encrypted guide to harnessing chaos as fuel, commanding the vortex of abundance, and reshaping universal currents to your design. And the crown jewel? A private circle of 400-plus high-frequency warriors, live mindset recalibration calls, and even chosen singles for soul-aligned partnerships. But understand this, imposters need not apply. If you're ready to step into the #1 Ascension Nexus, for true chosen ones, the Obsidian Inner Order awaits. Your legend begins now. Links in the description. Don't hesitate. Legends move with purpose. They ran for the exits, but the storm refused them freedom. Each door they reached was sealed by a deafening crack of lightning, splinters flying as the heavens barred their escape. The walls they thought would protect them now felt like a cage, their once commanding presence reduced to panicked figures scrambling in the flickering light. Nature itself conspired against them, forcing them to confront the chaos they had unleashed. There was no running from justice. It cornered them where their corruption had flourished. You are not the one trapped. They are, bound by their lies, suffocated by the weight of their own sins. They stood powerless as the forces they couldn't bribe or manipulate turned against them. The storm didn't just strike, it spoke, each thunderclap echoing their failure, each flash illuminating the truth they sought to bury. Their polished gavels and gilded robes meant nothing now. They were stripped of authority, left exposed as the architects of ruin. Justice didn't arrive in silence. It descended with fury, undeniable and unrelenting. They had no place to hide, no escape from the reckoning they thought they could avoid. You were not their prey, you were their judgment, standing tall as their empire crumbled. What they tried to flee became their sentence, delivered by forces far greater than their grasp. The lightning shattered their illusion of control, leaving the once mighty tribunal paralyzed in the wreckage of their arrogance. The gavel, once a weapon of corruption, now lay useless on a scorched bench. The air crackled with unyielding authority, not theirs, but something far greater, a force they could neither command nor comprehend. The courthouse, their fortress of manipulation, now bore the marks of cosmic justice. You were not brought to your knees, they were. Their scheme, meticulously crafted to condemn you, collapsed under the weight of divine retribution. Their robes of power now felt heavy with shame, their judgments stripped of legitimacy. In the searing light of the strike, they saw not just destruction, but revelation. They understood that their authority was borrowed, their actions scrutinized by a force beyond their comprehension. The very foundation of their dominion trembled under the undeniable truth. They were not untouchable. Forced to confront their own fallibility, the judges retreated into silence. Their deliberations, once filled with whispered deals and conspiratorial glances, now carried a different tone. Fear replaced arrogance. Humility displaced pride. They realized they were no longer arbiters of your fate, but witnesses to a justice that demanded acknowledgement. The divine intervention was not a suggestion, it was an ultimatum. In the end, they abandoned their plot. They could no longer serve their interests without inviting further wrath. The verdict they handed down wasn't just fair, it was necessary, a recognition that their power was never absolute. You stood, not as a petitioner, but as a force in your own right, validated by the very universe they sought to manipulate. Their decision wasn't a concession to you, it was a surrender to the truth that no gavel, no robe, no secret pact could ever overwrite. The courthouse, now scarred and silent, became a monument to what they had learned and what you had proven. Justice bends for no one. The judges, humbled and broken, bowed not to you but to the immutable laws they had tried to escape. The forces they ignored did not just intervene, they demanded obedience. You didn't just survive their corruption, you stood triumphant, a reminder that truth, when wielded by the right hands, is the most unrelenting power of all. When they plotted against you, they didn't account for the immutable laws that govern existence. Their schemes, dripping with malice, were launched like arrows aimed at your destruction. But the universe is no passive observer, it is an active force, relentless in its pursuit of balance. Their lies, their betrayals, their manipulation of justice, each was a weight added to the scale, tilting further and further until the inevitable correction arrived. Retribution is not delayed. It waits for the precise moment to strike, and when it does, it spares nothing. History echoes with warnings ignored. Empires built on oppression crumble under the weight of their own deceit. Pharaohs drowned in seas of their making, kings poisoned by their ambition, tribunals undone by the very power they sought to exploit. These judges are no exception. Their courtroom became their gallows, their verdicts their undoing. They reached too far, and the cosmic boomerang returned with precision, its arc unstoppable, its force undeniable. You are not their victim, you are the catalyst. The scales they thought they controlled snapped back with a vengeance, leaving them to face the full brunt of their actions. The universe does not need permission to balance itself. They cheated the scales and found themselves crushed beneath their correction. You stand untouched while they drown in the storm they summoned. You are untouchable, not by luck or coincidence, but by decree. When you walk under divine mandate, the forces aligned against you can only strike shadows, their blows landing nowhere near your core. Every plot, every venomous word, every whispered scheme breaks like waves against an unseen shield, a radiant barrier forged in realms beyond their comprehension. It doesn't falter, doesn't crack, and doesn't allow harm to touch you, no matter how insidious the attack. This protection isn't fragile. It's bound by laws older than stars, written into the fabric of existence itself. Those who walk in truth are guarded by forces that cannot be bribed, threatened, or swayed. The universe tilts in your favor, bending to ensure that harm ricochets. Back to its origin, the plans of your enemies unravel before they can reach fruition, their schemes collapsing under the weight of divine intervention. It is not arrogance to recognize this protection, it is reality. You don't need to see the shield to know it exists. Its results are undeniable. Every dagger aimed at you shatters. Every snare meant to trap you becomes the undoing of its creators. You are not merely surviving. You are walking proof that no harm can prevail against those aligned with higher laws. They cannot touch you. They never could. Betrayal carries a weight no traitor can bear for long. When your enemies sought favor, through corruption, they signed their own downfall. Their schemes were not clever. They were curses they cast upon themselves. Like Judas clutching his silver, they believed their reward would justify their actions. But the price of betrayal is always paid in full, and the universe is exacting in its accounting. What they built on lies is now their tomb, and the favor they sought has become a millstone dragging them into ruin. History echoes with the same lesson. Those who betray truth for gain are devoured by the very forces they unleash. In the rebellion of Catiline, conspirators promised power through treachery, only to find themselves hunted, their plots disintegrating in the harsh glare of exposure. Betrayal does not empower, it consumes. Your enemies, too, are now ensnared in the collapse of their ambitions, facing a justice as swift as it is unrelenting. The poetic symmetry is undeniable. They set the trap for you, but it was always theirs to fall into. They betrayed the law, and the law has turned against them. Every falsehood they whispered is now a thunderclap condemning them. You didn't have to lift a hand. The universe itself moved against their treachery, proving once again that betrayal doesn't conquer, it destroys. The lightning struck not as a warning, but as a declaration, a testament to the unshakable power that surrounds you. It wasn't chaos, it was precision, a fiery mark etched into the fabric of reality to remind you that no scheme, no betrayal, no force of corruption can halt what you are destined to achieve. That strike wasn't destruction, it was revelation, tearing apart illusions and clearing your path with unstoppable clarity. You are not here by chance. Your purpose is reinforced by the very forces that shattered their falsehoods. The universe does not waste its energy on the trivial. It moves for those who are chosen, those whose steps carry weight, whose actions matter. When the storm came, it came not to test you, but to pave the way forward. Every rumble of thunder echoes the same truth. You are supported by forces beyond measure. So, move, not with hesitation, but with the knowledge that the scales tip in your favor. Let every strike that split their schemes apart remind you that your purpose is indomitable. They thought their power could stop you, but the universe itself has intervened to say otherwise. Keep going, unyielding and relentless. You are not just protected, you are propelled. The lightning didn't strike to destroy, it struck to declare you unstoppable. The heavens have spoken. No one can stand against you when you walk in truth. The lightning didn't merely strike, It proclaimed your victory, shattering corruption and illuminating your path with undeniable power. You are not just protected, you are chosen, carried forward by forces greater than any scheme, any betrayal, any shadow cast by your enemies. The scales do not simply balance, they tip in your favor every time, because truth is unyielding, and so are you. Let the fire of this moment burn as a reminder. Your purpose is unstoppable, your strength undeniable, and your path divinely reinforced. Those who conspire against you may rise, but they will always fall, undone by the weight of their own treachery. The lightning is your symbol, not of destruction, but of power, your resilience, your right to move forward with confidence. Now is the time to speak. Share your story and let the world see what it means to walk in truth. Let your words carry the force of the storm, inspiring others to rise, to resist, to claim the justice that no enemy can deny. Tell them how the scales tipped for you and will tip again, for those bold enough to stand where you stand now.